Hey everyone, so for this week's reading and videos and such, one of the biggest things that stood out to me was just how insanely complex cells are, and that we always hear that DNA is important. I actually think about the fact that every single cell contains billions of base pairs of DNA is really crazy to me, and that DNA isn't just sitting there, it's constantly being read, transcribed, translated, regulated, all that stuff, and it makes the cell feel less like a blob of stuff, but more like almost an entire city. And one thing I found super interesting was how organized everything is. Like in eukaryotic cells, DNA is stored in the nucleus, separated from the cytoplasm, and then that separation kind of allows transcription to happen in the nucleus, and then translation to happen in the cytoplasm. And that level of compartmentalization just shows how intentional and structured life is at the super small level. And when I think about how this shapes my view of God as a creator, it actually makes me appreciate the idea that creation wasn't just random chaos that just happened to be perfect. And there's just structure and order and elegance in how everything works together and combines. And it doesn't feel mechanical in a cold way, but instead it feels like dynamic and alive and how God intended it to be. And it makes me think of someone, not just someone who built life and stepped away, but as someone who designed systems that can grow and adapt and sustain themselves and stuff like that. And then my other question that I'm answering is about the form follows function in eukaryotic cells, which was really cool to see in specific organelles. And first, the mitochondria, they often call the powerhouse of the cell, but what stood out to me was how their structure actually supports that role, and how the inner membrane is folded, which increases surface area, and the extra surface area allows for more space for the proteins in cellular respiration, like the electron transport chain. And then their folded shape literally helps maximize their ATP production, and the form directly supports the function of energy production. And then in the microvilli, the tiny finger-like projections on the surface of cells, especially in the small intestine, and their job is to increase absorption. And so because they stick out and dramatically increase surface area, they allow more nutrients to be absorbed, which was cool. And then in the ribosomes, they're much smaller and don't have membranes, which is important because their job is to quickly synthesize proteins. And their structure, which is made of rRNA, which is ribosomal RNA, and proteins, allows them to read the mRNA and assemble amino acids efficiently. So they're small, abundant, and can float freely in the cytoplasm or attach to the rough ER, depending on where their proteins need to go. And then lastly, I thought that Catherine's idea of God as a slow and steady artist instead of an engineer was really cool. An engineer makes something highly precise and usually following a blueprint or something like that. But an artist suggests creativity and patience and ongoing work. It implies that creation might be organic and developing over time rather than instantly assembled like a machine and just working from there. And then this metaphor also makes space for processes like growth, adaptation, and evolution, like how we've gone through. And if God is an artist, then creation isn't just a finished product altogether. It's something expressive and dynamic, like I mentioned earlier. And it reflects intention, but also beauty and complexity that unfolds gradually, which is really cool.